Today's guest was told he could not be a quarterback by his first high school coach, college recruiters, and every team in the National Football League. But he went to Canada and led Edmonton to an amazing 5 consecutive Grey Cups, and then finally to the National Football League, where he set league records for career passing yardage and touchdown passes. Folks, that earned him induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2006 as the first undrafted quarterback and the first African-American quarterback. It is my pleasure to welcome to the set Warren Moon. You thought I was going to head in a different direction, right? So
thanks, James. Great
good
to see
have you,
man.
partner.
How are you?
Hold tight. So where does Pops and Yoda as nicknames come from?
I think it comes from, I guess, a wisdom that I learned very young in my life because of some of the experiences that I went through. You know, my dad passed away when I was 7 years old, and here I was in a home with 6 sisters and my mom. So I was pretty much thrust into the man of the house role at a very, very young age, and I took that responsibility on full bore as far as making sure that the house was locked up at night, taking the trash, all the things I used to watch my dad do. I all of a sudden took on those responsibilities and was kind of like the protector for a lot of my sisters. As we got older, I was the guy, the chaperone that went to these high school dances with my sisters to make sure.
Even with your older sisters?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're the middle child now, right?
They weren't that happy about it, but I think years later they appreciated that they had their little brother there watching out for them.
So you chaperoned your older sisters when somebody wanted to date them when they went to dances and the like?
They had to go through me.
No kidding. So now Dad was only 38 years of age when he passed away.
Right.
What responsibilities, in addition to being a protector, did you take on from a household standpoint, and what was Mom doing?
Well, my mother went back to school and became a private duty nurse, and that was something that really, later on in life, I appreciated the fact that she could have just gave up and maybe lived off of the government, but she didn't do that. She went back, re-educated herself, became a nurse, like I said, and took care of us as a family. And she provided for us, sacrificed a lot of her own personal life to make sure we had everything that we needed, and keeping everything in our house meticulous that way when you're living in a 2-bedroom house with 7 kids. So
a 2-bedroom house, 7 kids.
Yeah.
You're the middle of those 6 women in the household.
Oh, yeah.
And what responsibilities did you take on? Could you cook?
I could cook. She taught me how to cook. She actually taught me how to bake as well. And I used to bake cookies the night before my high school games because I got so nervous before games I wasn't really nice to be around.
Hold tight. You baked cookies before your football games?
I did, just to kind of calm me down, get my mind off of the games. My mother taught me how to do that because like I said, I wasn't a nice person to be around the night before a game. I was really, nervous and irritable and anxious about playing. So that's what I started to do, and I ended up turning that cookie baking into a business later on in my life. I was a young entrepreneur at 23 years old.
Warren, if you handled all those responsibilities as a kid, what kind of childhood did you have?
I had a really good childhood. My mother kept me involved in a lot of positive environment types of things. She wanted me to be around more boys and more men because I just didn't have that in my life, so more mentors. So she got me involved in sports at a very young age so I could be around other boys and be around other men. I was involved in the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, vacation Bible school in the summer, all the different things that would keep me in positive environments because I grew up in South Central Los Angeles where there were a lot of gangs at that time, and there were a lot of my friends that kind of went that direction, and I could have easily gone that direction too, and who knows where I would have ended up. So she was concerned about that because of the influences, so she kept me in all these different positive things and as well as sports. And I gravitated towards all those different things, and that kind of kept me on the straight and narrow as I was growing up.
So now folks may be talking about calling you Pops and Yoda, but by the way, so it might be Pastor Warren Moon then, huh? You actually went to vacation Bible school?
I did, and we went to church every Sunday. That was a ritual in our house, and Bible study whenever possible. But I always have had Christ in my life growing up. My mother prayed a lot to make it through everything she had to deal with. So I saw her doing that, and I saw the benefit that she got from it, and it made us all want to do it as well. I've given a lot of money. I have a community center down in Houston that I started at my church down there, and there's just so many different positive things that come from that type of influence in your life.
Pastor Warren Moon. We'll find out more about that. We'll be back with more with Warren Moon after this brief message. Listen to the mindset that Warren Moon had throughout his career. Quote, "I always thought I had to be perfect during every stage of my life without flaw or emotion." That's a quote from your book. Warren, what does that mean? How did that define how you approached everything?
Well, I knew playing the quarterback position was quite an ambitious journey because there just wasn't a whole lot of them out there to look at to say, okay, you're going to make it, because there's so many more that you can look at as mentors. So I knew in order for me to make it, I was going to have to do everything right. You know, I had to be basically perfect. I couldn't make any mistakes, both on and off the field, and I had to be better probably than the other guys. And then I just knew that I had to be perfect in every way. Even though there's no such thing as perfect, you're always striving for that.
But Warren, as a youngster, it's so easy to be knocked off stride in terms of what you were desiring to do as an African-American quarterback. Your sophomore coach in high school said there was no way you were going to play quarterback for him. And you talked about not having many role models ahead of you who played often, though very talented before you. What kept you from being knocked off stride as a youngster?
A lot of it was I was very confident. I was very cocky, but not in a way where I was boisterous cocky, just in my mind. I was just a very confident person that I knew I had put the work in to be good. And you can kind of judge how good you are by the players that you play against, the competition that you play against. I knew I could play with the best competition, whether it was in Pop Warner when I played, whether it was in high school football when I played, because I made the top levels of all these different levels that I played football. Whether it was in high school, I was an all-city player, some All-American teams. When I was in junior college, I was State Player of the Year. When I'm in college, I'm the Pac-8 Player of the Year, Rose Bowl Most Valuable Player. So I'm playing at those levels, I'm just not getting the opportunity.
Playing at that all-star level at each point along the way, but not being given the opportunities.
Right.
Your high school coach, now the varsity coach, he embraced you as a quarterback.
Right.
But yet, when it came time to go to college, how many college recruiters wanted you to play quarterback for them?
Not many. And I actually started to go to Arizona State because I was being recruited there to play quarterback.
And what happened?
Then they all of a sudden signed two of the best nationally ranked quarterbacks that were both white, and they committed to go there, and they told me they were going to change me to defensive back, so I decommitted to Arizona State. But none of the big schools wanted me to play quarterback that threw the football. There were some schools that wanted to recruit me as an option quarterback,
right?
But I wasn't interested in running the football. I wasn't that great an athlete, and I wanted to throw the football. That was my strength, throwing the football.
So you had to take a detour and go to junior college.
I went to junior college for a
there?
year just to try and get more opportunities. My high school coach went to the junior college as offensive coordinator, so I followed him. One of my wide receivers was being recruited by the University of Washington. They would see me on tape when I'm throwing them the football, and all of a sudden they became interested in recruiting me. So I got recruited by a number of schools out of junior college, but it took some really craftiness out of me in order to even get that done. I had a job in the physical education department where I turned the water on and just something to make extra money. Well, I also had access to the film library. So I could go in the film library, take film out, send it off to different schools that I wanted to recruit.
You had to go in and get the film to send out on yourself.
Yeah.
And you're rewriting the record books, but this is what you had to do to get noticed.
That's how I kind of got recruited by the major schools that I wanted to go to.
So you finally go to the University of Washington, rewrite the record books there, but even there, most people have the perception that in the Pacific Northwest, it's a bit more embracing an environment, if you will, yet the fans weren't necessarily as welcoming.
No, they weren't. And I was the first African-American quarterback to start there. And I was coming in on Don James's first recruiting class.
Coach Don James.
We had a tremendously difficult schedule that year, and we weren't a very talented football team, and we were losing football games. And a lot of that falls on the coach and falls on the quarterback. So I took a lot of criticism for that, a lot of booing, and a lot of alumni wanted me to be replaced and all that. But Coach James stuck with me through all of that. And we finally came out of it after some good years of recruiting and building the program, and we ended up going to the Rose Bowl.
And you were Rose Bowl MVP, but when it came time to graduate, not one NFL team, not one, sent a coach to work you out.
No.
And you wind up having to go a different route. What did you do?
Well, the Canadian Football League came and told me they were very, very interested. So Hugh Campbell, who was the coach of the Edmonton Eskimos at that time, came and met me, talked to me about what Edmonton was like. He thought and believed that I could be a great pro quarterback. I was very, very divided because my dream as a young kid was to play in the NFL. And now all of a sudden my own country is telling me I can't play or not going to give me the opportunity to play. But here's a country, Canada, that I knew very, very little about, that's going to give me that chance and believed in me. So I ended up going to Canada because they were going to give me that opportunity where the NFL was not going to give me that opportunity.
And 5 consecutive Grey Cup titles later, clearly in the Hall of Fame in Canada, he finally gets an opportunity to come and play in the National Football League. We'll explore that and more when we come back with Warren Moon. Warren Moon has said, throughout my career, I was never able to relax. I always had to go on the field with another responsibility. I felt like I was playing not just for my team, but for my race. Warren, it has always been said, 200 years ago, even when I played sports, athletes have to clear their mind and focus on the task at hand, but yet you had this extra burden. How did that manifest itself in terms of your play, which was phenomenal?
Well, I was able to focus and get myself ready to play, but I knew in the back of my mind that there was, a higher power that I was playing for, because people were always talking to me about how big a responsibility I had to do well. And I'm sure they said the same thing to Doug Williams. I'm sure they said the same thing to Randall Cunningham during that time, that you've got to represent for us. You got to represent. I was always being told that by different segments of the black population. I remember when I had a chance to break the single game record for passing against Kansas City. I threw for like 520 something yards. I was like 12 yards away from Norvan Brocklin's record. I came out of the game early, and I got criticized by African American newspapers for not breaking that record because it would have been a very significant accomplishment. And I was looking at it totally different, that we had the game won. There's no reason for me to just stay in there and keep throwing the football.
But in society, people were hanging so much on you because you were an African American quarterback.
I was called Uncle Tom by my own African American newspaper in Houston.
So you were getting it from both sides. You
Yeah.
were even getting it from African American organizations that you didn't break the record,
Right.
and they called you an Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
What were you doing along the way to handle that kind of burden?
Well, prayer really helped me. My minister at that time, Kirby John Caldwell, we prayed before every game. But a lot of it I compartmentalized and just buried inside of me. And it wasn't until during my career in Minnesota where I started to seek therapy, because I felt like I was going to explode.
What kind of therapy and how beneficial was it?
Oh, it was just mental therapy, just seeing a psychologist, sports psychologist, having somebody to be able to talk about the things that I was either going through or the things that I had already gone through. It was the best thing I've ever done as far as releasing and cleansing a lot of the things that were inside of me that had built up over all those years.
And check this out now, we talk about Tom Brady and the fact that he's doing what he's doing now, hugging age 40. You were like fine wine. You got better each year along the way, coming into the league some 6 years after your college experience,
Right.
and got better. And you didn't finish playing until age 44. Then you get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and you broke down and you cried. How did you get the news? Where did you vent?
I was actually at the Super Bowl in Detroit, and I was working for the Seattle Seahawks, which I still do as a commentator, and we were in the Super Bowl. So I happened to be in Detroit getting ready for the game. So I'm heading down the freeway. It's snowing in Detroit. I'm trying to get
What else is new in Detroit?
I'm trying to get
Go
to
ahead.
downtown. And next thing I know, I get a phone call on my cell phone. And it's a phone call from one of the secretaries with the NFL who said I had been looking for some tickets for this tailgate party before the game. She said, I got you the tickets that you needed. And by the way, congratulations on being inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm like, what are you talking about? Evidently, they were trying to call me while I was talking to her on the phone. And then they finally called me when I put the phone down, and I got the call. And I just broke down while I was driving. My wife had to take the wheel of the car. It was just one of the most emotional moments I've ever had in my life. And I just lost it.
Vindication, justice, if you will, for all that you endured to be here in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Warren Moon. We'll come back with Warren right after this. chapter of Warren Moon's 2009 autobiography is titled NFL's Hidden Secret, and it's about concussions. And he says he had 6 himself that he certainly recalls. And real quickly, before we talk about CTE, the quarterbacks of today, many of them are much more socially minded and expressive. I think about Colin Kaepernick and others as well. What are your thoughts about that in general?
I love the fact that these guys are being more socially conscious and talking about it. The thing that they have to understand, though, everybody's not going to agree with what they say, and they're going to have to be able to take the repercussions of that. And that's the give and take that comes along with being very vocal. You look at what Muhammad Ali did in his stance on not going to the war, or you look at any of the other great African Americans, Jackie Robinson or Arthur Ashe, whoever it was, there was a lot of negativity that came with that. So you have to know, if you step out there with these things, that it's not going to be easy, and there's going to sometimes be some opportunities slammed in your face. And I think that's what Colin is going through right now.
This is a sport you absolutely love, but you're also very candid about the CTE, the chronic traumatic encephalopathy that many players have suffered with, certainly in terms of the donated brains. Your thoughts about that and what the league is attempting to do?
Well, I love the research that the league is doing right now as far as the protocols that they have to put in place for guys that have concussions before you put them back on the field. All the research is being done for CTE to maybe sometime or somewhere down the line hopefully find who has CTE in their brain before they die, because right now you can't find out about it until you're actually dead, and it doesn't really help you then. But it's too bad that football's taking on all this responsibility for all these head injuries, because there's head injuries in everything we do. There's head injuries in hockey, there's head injuries in soccer, there's head injuries in cheerleading, believe it or not. When those young girls are getting thrown up in the air and they get dropped, they fall on their head too and get concussions, and they happen in all these different sports. So it's unfortunate, but I think we're dealing with it in the right way, because we're putting the money and the effort towards the research to find out more about how we can prevent these things from happening, whether it's better equipment, whether it's making the rules a little bit stronger as far as making the game safer to play and penalizing guys if they don't play it the right way. So things are being done, but it's too bad that football is taking the blame for a lot of this.
10 seconds as we had to break. Any personal concerns on your part?
Always. I mean, I feel pretty sharp right now. I have no physical limitations, but you just never know when these things might set in. You don't know if it's old age, or you don't know if it's something from your concussion. So you just have to kind of wait and see.
Old age? How old are you, Warren?
6'0".
Man, please, I got shoes older than you, man. Back here with a gentleman I'm calling the modern day Jackie Robinson. Not his words, my words, because of the manner in which he handled everything with a class and aplomb again. But Warren, talk about what you're doing today. I mean, your partners talk about you being the consummate businessman, and I go back to when you were baking cookies and doing business up in Canada.
Well, my entrepreneurial days started back then when I was 23. I've always wanted to kind of run my own business, and I think that's the best way for anybody, if they don't have to work for somebody else, and they can do the things and the ideas that they have and the goals and the dreams that they have. And my business partner and I, Dave Meltzer, we have pretty much the same ideas and goals for our business, which is to make a lot of money so we can help a lot of people and we can have a lot of fun doing it. And that's kind of what we've been doing with our marketing company. And it's been a great success so far over the last 8 years, and all the different things we've been able to do. And every company that we work with, that we consult with, that we market with, it has a charitable component as well. So there's a give back to everything that we do, and we want those people to pay it forward, so we help out other people that might be a little less fortunate. So it might be a charity that they're involved in, or something that I'm involved in, whether it's my Crescent Moon Foundation that I started back when I was a player in 1989 that provides scholarships to underprivileged high school kids to go to college. We've been doing that for a long time, and then we're also involved with St. Jude's Hospital. We're on the advisory board of that. I've been with Children's Hospital for many years. So we're involved in a lot of different charities, but my main baby is my foundation, the Crescent Moon Foundation.
Your mom is still alive. Give us an update on Mom before we wrap this baby up.
Well, she's the strongest woman that I know in my life, and she's the biggest influence that I know in my life. And one of the things about us, we're so much alike that we butt heads a lot.
My brother, no matter how old you get, that will continue to be the case. And I think many of us have heard this. My mom, who's in heaven now, died at the tender age of 72. And I spoke back to her one time and she said, boy, I brought you in the world.
And I can take you out. I've heard that a few times.
I knew you would complete that properly. Folks,
I've heard
it's
that
been
a few
an absolute
times.
pleasure talking with Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats, not only on the football field, but in the game of life. That will be Mr. Warren Moon. We'll see you next time on The James Brown Show.